Good morning, church.
Good morning.
Good morning to all of you who are watching me. You're not here. I am Dr. Reverend Ahmondra McClendon, and it is a joy and a pleasure to be here this morning to speak about this amazing celebration called Kwanzaa. So I need to put this out in the space because I have struggled with my Swahili all my life. I grew up with a mother with a British accent and a father with a Southern accent. And so you know, if you watch me from the pulpit, sometimes words come out and they don't make any sense. And these are English words, so I've been working on my Swahili. So anyway, the word Kwanzaa is derived from a phrase, and it's a phrase, Mantuba yu Kwanzaa, which means first fruits in Swahili. This celebration actually comes from the whole celebration over the continent of Africa where harvest occurs. Now remember, they're on the other side of the world, so our winter is their summer. So that's why this time of the year it's being celebrated. First harvest, the first fruits. And we have similar celebrations in this country. The farmers celebrate the end of working so hard to plant their crops and then to harvest them. And so during Kwanzaa, what happens is that someone will come up to you and they'll say, "Abargami." Abargami means, what's the good news? And you respond to them by saying one of the principles of Kwanzaa, which I'm going to be sharing with you today. But I want to just take a minute to be real clear that Kwanzaa, like what Jim read, it's not in competition with Christmas. So you can see my Christmas decorations up here. When I would do Kwanzaa celebrations, I'd have a Christmas tree in the house, and I'd have all of my Christmas decorations, and then I'd also have my Kwanzaa. It is not a religious celebration. It's a celebration of recognition and recognizing newness and unity. Now, I want to start by saying there's an African proverb. And the African proverb goes like this. The rooster said, if no one praises you, you praise yourself. Okay? So Kwanzaa was created by a gentleman named Dr. Malanga Karinga. Now when he created it in 1966, he was a student at UCLA. And it was right after the whole Watts rebellion that was going on. Currently, he is a professor at Long Beach University. But during that time, he wanted to create unity inside of the African American community because we were focused on social justice. You have to also understand that the leaders during that time were very concerned that the African American community was focused on social justice, as it should have been. Reclaiming rights, standing up, saying this is who we are. That's where that African proverb comes in. If no one praises you, you praise yourself. And so he put together the Kwanzaa celebration so that African Americans would begin to be unified, but not just in our families, in our communities here, but with the larger continent of Africa. When Africans were removed from Africa, kidnapped and brought here and held in captivity, everything was stripped away. That's in this country. Other places, they were allowed to keep some semblances of their culture. But in this particular country, language was taken. That was taken from day one. When they put Africans on the ships, they made sure they weren't all in one tribe, so they couldn't communicate. So language was the first thing taken away. When they arrived on the shores, their names were taken away, and they had names given to them. So their personal identity was removed. Any semblance of culture was removed. Any practices were forbidden. The drum is very, very powerful on the African continent. That was removed. That was forbidden. You could not beat the drums. You could not dance. So every semblance of who they were as Africans was stripped away. So now, just think how many generations that was occurring for. And it got to the place where when slavery became outlawed, when you can't go and you can't take people from their land and bring them here, in this country, they just said, okay, then we'll just breed our own. We don't have to go get them. And so when you do that, you give people the culture you want them to have. You give them the religion you want them to have. You give them the thinking patterns you want them to have. So in the 60s, as African Americans began to stand up, study their history, and say, wait, we have cultures. Because the narratives that have been given to us said Africa was bad. I grew up with the mindset that said Africa's a dark continent, you don't want to go there, there's nothing good there. That was the narrative that has been given to us. And so in the 60s, we started saying, wait, hold on, our culture is rich. I remember when I first started reading, I would sob, I would cry, because I would realize there is a whole body of information I have no idea about. So that's where that whole feeling of let us begin to create a celebration that has African Americans begin to celebrate their original cultural roots. That's why it's a cultural celebration. So during this time also, they felt like it had to be a tradition and it had to be anchored in spirituality. And so the principles of Kwanzaa come straight out of Pan-African principles, and it's called the Ngubu Saba. There's 7 principles. The first thing I'm going to share with you are the symbols of Kwanzaa. So we have the mat. I'm going to take my cheat sheet with me. So the mat represents the foundation. This goes down first on the table. And everything else is put on top of that mat. And then you have the kanar, the candle holder. And the candle holder represents mother, father, foundation, and children, the bottom, the foundation. And it would sit on top of the mat. The candles represent the 7 principles of Ngubu Saba, and I'm going to go more into detail. But I just want to call your attention to the colors. The black in the middle represents the African people across the world. The red represents the blood of the ancestors that was shed on that middle passage coming to this world. And then the green represents life, the earth, and the future. These colors are represented all over the continent. If you look at the flags of African countries, they have these colors. Marcus Garvey in our country developed the flag, which I don't have with me today, and it has these colors. There's also the symbol of the Unity Cup that pays tribute to the ancestors, and you also sip out of it, and I'll go into more detail when I talk about the actual ceremony. But you have the Unity Cup. I have placed here my ancestors, so that's why they're sitting here on the table, but you don't necessarily have to have that. So there should be ears of corn on the table, but I couldn't find any corn to represent the children. For however many children are in the family, you have an ear of corn. And so, but I do have a representation of a parent with their child on the table. Then you also have the basket of fruits. This basket of fruits represents the harvest. And you would have all manner of fruits and vegetables in your basket. Now, one similarity between Kwanzaa and Christmas is the giving of gifts. But in Kwanzaa, the gifts that are given are usually books for education and they're for the children, or articles of clothing that are African-based to educate on your culture and the beauty of what you have and your traditions. Like these dolls are called Mbele dolls, and they're from South Africa, and they're made by women. And so gifts are given during the Kwanzaa period of time. But the children know that they're giving, the gifts that they are receiving, it's because of their hard work and their commitment to the previous year. So the gift is not, I'm giving you this just because. I'm giving you this because of how you've conducted yourself and how you've lived over the past year. So let me get into the actual ceremony. So during Kwanzaa, it runs for 7 days. So people open their homes and they have gatherings. And at the ceremony, the first thing that happens is the lighting of the candles. The first candle that you light is the black candle. And it represents African people, but it also represents umoja, unity. That's the first candle. And it's lit on the very first day. So you light that candle on the very first day. And then on the second day, you light the red candle. And you start on the outside. And this is Kuja Kajulia, self-determination. And you talk about self-determination in your life. Then the green candle, Ujima, collective work and responsibility. Collective work and responsibility. We work together. We are responsible for each other. And we do it in harmony. Then you light another red candle, Ujama. And this is cooperative economics. Cooperative economics is very important because in the African American community, one of the false narratives that was given to everybody was that black businesses weren't as good as other businesses. I grew up in a community where there were maybe one black business. There were other people who had businesses in my community. First it was the Chinese, they had the businesses, and then when they left, it was the Arabs, they had the businesses. The money in the African American community does not circulate. It comes in and it goes right out. Well, when you have money that doesn't circulate in your community, you don't build economic foundation. And so this is very important about cooperative economics. So during the Kwanzaa time, we emphasize purchasing products from those in your community so that we can begin to build a deeper and stronger financial base. The green candle, the next green candle is for purpose, Nia. It's your purpose. What is your purpose in life? What do you stand for? How are you bringing your gifts to the world and to the community? It's not just about you. It's about how are you bringing all of you, your divine self. Africa is a very tribal community. I've traveled there lots of times. And it's all about working together. It's all about how can I give you what I have. And this is what I have. Even though it's very, very small, I can still share it with you. My purpose is to be of service to all of humanity. The next red candle, Kumba, creativity. We are all so very creative. How can we share that? Come together and make things. One of the beauties of Kwanzaa celebrations is that there's usually always a place set aside for young people to be able to create. Either they paint, they weave, they have some type of activity where they're creating while they're there. Now, I was blessed during my Kwanzaa celebration that there were no cell phones and there were no Game Boys. So I didn't have to compete with all of that. The last candle that we light is for faith, and it's called Amani. Faith. Now, faith is something that in the African American community is deep. When you look at how long we lived inside of captivity, just think of those original fathers and mothers and daughters and who had faith that one day the physical change would not be there. To stand inside of that type of faith, that's powerful. And so we make sure that we understand that what faith means. And you, in the African American community, there are many women who were born in around my time named Imani for faith. Now, during the celebration, the elder pours into the unity cup, and they actually have a plant, and then so they pour water to acknowledge the ancestors, recognize the ancestors. And everyone takes a sip from the unity cup. Everyone. Except maybe, I guess, if you're 2-3 days old, you wouldn't sip from the cup. But if you're 1 year old, you sip it from the cup. It signifies unity. After drinking from the cup, there's a feast. There's always a feast. Don't let me leave that out. Tons of food. And so we come together and we eat. And there is something that is done that is so powerful. We chant Harambe, which means pull together. And it's Harambe, Harambe, Harambe. Everyone does it. And we do it 7 times. It's like pull together. Do not allow yourself to go out into the world and feel like you're alone. We are not alone. We did not grow up in nuclear families. That is not our tradition. We are tribal people. Harambe means we pull together. So on the last day, after the pouring of libations and the calling of pull together, this is read. And it's read at all ceremonies on the last day. Our fathers and mothers came here, lived and loved and struggled and built here. At this place, their love and labor rose like the sun and gave strength to the day. For they gave so much, and now we give back in return. Here we too build and move in unity, in strength, to achieve a higher level of life. May we remember and honor our ancestors and the legacy they left for us forever. For people everywhere, our brothers and sisters, known and unknown, who defended our ancestral lands are remembered here this day. At that point, each person there shares the name of someone that they want to bring into this energy. Could be someone living or someone who's passed on. It could be a known figure, or it could just be your own personal friend or figure. And then as everyone breaks and disperses for that year, at the end of that last day of Kwanzaa, the farewell statement is read. Strive for discipline, dedication, and achievement in all you do. Build knowing that your life is precious in a deeply spiritual way. Practice daily the principles of Ngubu Saba, The wisdom of the ancestors are always with you. May this next year find us laughing and stronger, and at the end of next year, may we sit together with great achievement. You have the blessings of the ancestors in your family, and your family is always with you. It's within you. No person is alone, so feel blessed, and you have no need to fear ever, because the ancestors walk with you. And then Harambe is repeated 7 times. So this anchors the Kwanzaa celebration. Now, you can also have someone that's called a storyteller there. I used to have a storyteller come. This is someone who would gather all the information from me and maybe close friends of the ancestors. And she would have us in a circle. And the oldest elder there would sit down in the front. And the storyteller would call the names of the families. And it's amazing because they hold it in their heads. They don't have a piece of paper. And sometimes they have a staff. And they'll call the name, like they'll go down through my history. And they'll say my great-great-grandfather's name and hit the stick. And then they'll say the next ancestor and hit the stick. So sometimes you have storytellers that are also there. And again, it's all to bring to our consciousness the fact that we are connected. Because we grew up in this country feeling not connected, you guys. And so Kwanzaa, that started in the 60s, was that way for us to begin to say, wait, hold up, we are connected. We are connected. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. And I wanted to have this short so that you could ask me questions, if you have any.
Well, I had one question and a comment. I would like to say the comment first. It's so beautiful and well thought out to include everybody, to lift people up, and to give them inspiration. That's just really beautiful.
Yeah, and thank you for that. It's important that everyone understand that, because when people hear that this is an African American celebration, holiday, and it's the only one that was ever out there. We didn't have our own holiday, nothing. And so when it came out, there was this conversation of, oh, that's African American. And so we had to make sure it's inclusive. No, it was created for us, yes, but it's inclusive.
Okay.
Is it an African celebration in America only, or is it
No,
in Africa too?
It's all over Africa.
Okay.
The harvest celebrations are all over Africa. Kwanzaa was created here in this country with the way it's performed for African Americans in this country. But it's tied to first fruit celebrations all through the continent. Yeah.
And just my question was, I love food, so I was wondering what kind of food? What's that kind of food like?
African American dishes that came out of captivity, you know. A lot of the foods that we were allowed to eat were foods that we could grow, or foods that was left over. But then you also have individuals who research the traditional dishes out of Africa. So you have just this mix of food. And yeah, even though I'm vegetarian, but at that feast, there were a whole lot of non-vegetarian dishes. Yes,
I would sure like to have a copy of what you just said so I could remember all of that.
Absolutely. And I apologize because I was going to have, you know, I always have things to pass out. I'll make sure you get that. Yeah.
I'd like it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just so beautifully done, and your outfit is gorgeous. Yeah.
Thank you. This outfit is from Zimbabwe. And this is a wall,
Right.
an ancient wall of Zimbabwe, from the ruins in Zimbabwe. It's actually made by an organization out of South Africa where everybody it's a Dutch organization, and all the people in there are young people that had some type of learning disability or some type of physical disability. They come together and they make these beautiful, and a lot of my clothing, you'll see the little stick people on them are made from Danico, is the name of the company. And they started this amazing business, and it's all over the world. And that is how they pay for the services. So, thank you.
Beautiful.
Yes.
It's amazing that I'm here today. I was going through pictures, and I brought back maybe, I was saying 1,000, but I went through them last night, and maybe 2,000 pictures from South Africa.
Oh my
From
goodness.
Mabula, all over Kruger Park, and we probably have, excuse me, 50 of these friends of mine from Australia, hugging black people, kissing black people.
Yeah.
They're just so friendly and so wonderful and so gregarious, and it was wonderful. And the white people ran carts into me in the grocery store. It was interesting how they were not happy that we were so open to everybody there, and they were so open to us, and we were just
What year?
amazed at how beautiful.
Around what year, you remember?
I'm sorry?
Do you remember what year? What this time period?
The decade, maybe?
4 years ago.
Oh, okay, recent.
Recently.
Yeah.
Recent, okay, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yes. I
Recent,
mean,
yeah.
and these two people are out there. They live in Australia, but they travel the world.
Wow,
They'll be here with me for 2 months.
I want to
I've
meet
adopted
them.
them as erstwhile brothers and sisters, and they're doctors down there, and they just love people, and the people just love them.
Yeah.
I'm a little more standoffish, I'm quite actually kind of weird, as you can tell.
I'm glad you are here today. I've spent quite a bit of time in South Africa. I was there, I was just explaining earlier before service, I was there 10 months out of apartheid. That's when I purchased these dolls. During apartheid, they weren't allowed to ship anything out of South Africa. The other countries wouldn't purchase. South African airplanes couldn't even fly over some countries because the world was like, no, we don't like what you're doing. And so when I got these, they were the first Nimbelli dolls they were just starting to ship them out into the world. That was back in the 90s. And South Africa, I take my hat off to my hero, Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, president, kept that country from exploding in chaos and anger, and Bishop Desmond Tutu also. When Nelson stepped out of prison, he stepped out of prison and his friends were the prison guards. He made friends with his prison guards, even though they beat him. And one of the things he said was that, what does it feel like for someone to come to a job every day and they have to beat someone, and then they go home to their families? So he became friends with his prison guards. And when he was inaugurated as president, they were sitting on the stage with him at the inaugural ball. South Africa has shown the world that things can shift. They still got major stuff going on down there, but they did show the world that a leader standing inside of their integrity can hold a vision and have that vision come into being, but they could also create shifts and changes inside of the physical world. And those changes can allow individuals to begin to slowly come together. It's challenging, but the country didn't explode in turmoil, conflict, and war like it really could have. Yes.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
there wasn't a single person down there that we met that didn't speak more than 2, maybe 3
Three
or
languages.
4 languages.
Mhm, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We are like the only people in the world who speak one language.
Yes, and not well.
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you, first of all. I appreciate this so much.
Yes.
This
So welcome.
is so beautiful. And this whole thing is beautiful. It makes me want to cry, you know? And it makes me want to study Black history. I know nothing about it. We didn't have such.
But we didn't either.
And if you did, it would have been
And now they
Yes.
have to stop
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
that breaks my heart too.
Yeah. Well, I was blessed that I grew up in a time where the African American studies flourished. And I went to San Francisco State University, the very first African American studies program. I think they called it ethnic studies at the time. And it became a department. First it was just like a program, then it became a department. And then they went all over the United States. Almost all the colleges had them. Now we're back down to just a couple, you know, so. But I was blessed to be inside of that education and to learn. And it expanded my consciousness so much. And I'll make a commitment to you that during the year, I will bring information to you in the way of sermons, in the way of stories. I will bring that because my commitment in the world is to bring love and peace. And we do that by understanding who we are. That's how we do that. So thank you this morning. This has been wonderful. And all of you out there looking, I'm glad you were here too. Blessings to each and every one of you. Thank you.